Hello, everyone. I'm Charles Graham, Senior Bloomberg Intelligence Analyst, responsible for covering the European insurance industry as part of Bloomberg's research platform. I'm excited to host the Digital Insurer, changing the way we think about insurance. As customers depend more on digital for their everyday lives, many insurance organizations are having to think about how they respond to changing technology and transform the way in which they do business with their customers. Today, we want to hear from you as leaders on the front line of the insurance industry about how technology and technological innovation is changing your businesses, how it is helping you cut costs, and what it means for business culture within your organizations and your relationship with your customers.
Thank you, Charles. Interesting entrance into this and thinking about how we are digitizing as an insurance company. And putting the customer in the center of insurance. I would contend that that is what we've always done as an industry. This industry started with desire to protect individuals and businesses from risks that could have catastrophic consequences. And we started as an industry to protect from that and to help our clients prosper. As Charles said, my name is Elbert. I am the general manager for IBM's global insurance business. And I'm very happy to have had the privilege to support this roundtable discussion with all of you today. I'd like to start by thanking Charles and the Bloomberg and the IBM staff for putting this together and helping with all the enablement and hard work that goes into organizing an event like this. And then especially to our panelists that are here from our insurance companies for taking time out of your busy days to be a part of this panel, to share your thoughts and insights. I've had the privilege to talk with several of you during the past couple weeks. And I have every confidence that you're going to bring a lot of energy and insight to this discussion. As we can all attest, this year has not been easy for any of us. COVID has impacted us, as Charles said, in all ways, in ways that we did not imagine were possible as we started out this year. And our social lives and our family lives and our business lives, and drastically changing the way we work, which is some of what we're here to talk about. For example, our commutes are now measured in minutes and feet instead of miles and hours or kilometers, right? So things have changed. We all have become very good, and we're all just instructed in how to look good and appropriate on a Zoom meeting and adjust our style and everything. So things have changed for all of us, but in important ways for the way we work. In some of the discussions we had prior to today, and in guiding other insurance clients throughout this year, it is obvious that us as insurers, small and large, have not been spared from these challenges. And what you've done is prioritized those elements that are key and foundational for your company. You've looked at engaging clients and your customers in meaningful ways and conveying trust throughout that entire engagement lifecycle. You've had to ensure, and you are ensuring, business continuity and empowering your workforce to adjust to this elongated period of disruption for them. You've tackled the cost pressures and highlighted the efficiencies that are a part of our environment today with the economic uncertainty, and you've had to ensure security and integrity along the way. All this while having to maintain a growth posture, targeting for a growth posture for your companies, and as well as maintaining your competitive advantage in your industry. So this is no small task. So what have we done as an industry? What in tackling these challenges? You have discovered new ways of working. You have embraced digital technologies to automate your processes and improve efficiencies throughout your company. You have invested in expanding those digital channels and empowering agents and brokers and service reps to provide better customer service based on the access to data and capabilities that they have. You've made digital investments to better connect with your customers. And finally, you've changed your ability to connect with broader ecosystems in ways that you look at how are you expanding the products and services that you can deliver out to your customers in a way that's very unique and different to their challenges that they face today. So if there's anything that the last 6 months has proven, it's that insurers are innovative. We are as an industry, and we've done this and we've proven it in the last 6 months. I'm eager to discuss with you how that innovation will continue to propel us into the future and hear your insights on that. Charles, let's get started on our discussion.
Okay, well, let's start with the first question. How is technological innovation transforming the way in which you do business? And is it changing the nature of your relationship with your customers? Maybe Mary Beth, if you would like to start.
Thanks, Charles. Yes, hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Mary Beth Eckert, and I'm the CIO down at USAA in San Antonio, Texas. I have the Property and Casualty Insurance Division. So, you know, it's interesting. USAA is a little bit different of an organization in how mission focused we are. And everything we do is focused on the military community, our associates and families across the board. So when we're looking at a year like this, and I think BU did an excellent job of introducing how dramatically different the world is today than it was back in February of this year. Who would have thought, you know, we all pivoted to send everyone working from home in a very short period of time. Many organizations, unfortunately, are very focused on sustainability now versus innovation and how do we move ourselves forward. But thankfully at USAA, we have a strong enough balance sheet, and I think many on this call do, around being able to continue to invest in the future. And, you know, what does that kind of look like? And what are our customers, our members demanding from us? You know, at USAA, that's really looking at not just keeping pace with other insurance companies, that's keeping pace with the industry across the board in terms of, you know, what is Amazon doing? What is Google doing? What are we out there competing against? We're going to talk a little bit later, I think, about other entrants into the market. But, you know, for us, we are focused on modernizing our technology. It's a massive 7-year, over $1 billion investment to make sure that we're able to provide the right technologies, the right digital surround, using the best in breed of, you know, core transaction engines and things. But a great example of what tomorrow looks like is exemplified by, we're striving to 75% touchless claims by 2022, just as an example. I think today, we do a lot digitally. Even in Hurricane Delta this past couple weeks, we had over 50% of our claims submitted. The first notice of losses were submitted digitally. But we're on a journey to take that much further beyond just doing touchless claims of a windshield break or food damage, spoilage, things like that. It's really bringing into play things like our partnership with Google, where image to estimate, you can take, you know, you get in a car accident and you submit that digitally on the first notice of loss, you submit 8 photos or so. We don't just take in those photos, we're working to apply machine learning and artificial intelligence to really determine what components, what pieces and parts of that auto are going to need to be repaired and replaced, and actually sending that downstream to do the actual VIN and match up the parts, come back to the member within hours, not days and weeks sometimes, with an estimate for that repair that they can go take action on. Or another example would be aerial imagery. You know, really being able to send out planes and drones after a cat, oftentimes before a member can even get back to their homes, and using before and after photos and artificial intelligence to really determine the degree of loss, anything from it's perfectly okay, you were untouched, to there's a total loss. And what artificial intelligence is doing is really allowing us to assess that gray area in between much better. When it's not a total loss, those are unfortunately a little easier to spot. It's when there's that partial loss, and really being able to both inform the member what condition their home may be in, but also starting that process of adjusting that claim so that they can get a jump start on the contractors, and oftentimes start that process within the same day. So, you know, I do think innovation is changing the way we're interacting with our customers, with our members. They're demanding real time. They're demanding efficiency, and they're demanding that in the rates that they see. So we're stepping up to that challenge across the board, and we have a long ways to go. But I think both our industry, also the InsurTech industry, in providing digital solutions, point-in-time solutions that really exemplify how we can take that out to the members, is a great foundation for where we're going.
Okay. And James, is that a similar story at Liberty Mutual?
Good morning, Charles, and everybody. I'm happy to be here, James McGlennon at Liberty Mutual Group. You know, I think Mary Beth covered a lot of ground, and I'd have to start by saying, yep, I recognize all of those things, and they're very much the same things that we're focused on. I'll add a few other points. In addition, I would say that, you know, during the pandemic, one of the big words that we've used a lot is acceleration. It's not like we decided to do all this digital transformation just when we arrived in a pandemic situation. Really, we've been on this journey for many years. Our focus within Liberty Mutual across all of our P&C businesses around the world is to provide all of the channels that our customers request. And in essence, many customers like to do business with us digitally, directly. Some like to call our call centers, some like to use our mobile technologies. Some like to work through our independent agent channel here in the US. Our Safeco brand is our independent agent channel in the US, and it's a $10 billion plus business for us. So it's equally important for us to digitally enable that channel as it is to enable the channel for our direct-to-consumer business. And of course, around the world, we do business with all of the major brokers in many countries, and they are in fact the conduit to our customers, and we regard them equally as our customers when we think about digitally enabling our interactions with them. So as Mary Beth outlined, things have changed a lot, I think, in the last few years. We're really focused on data, not just the data we have and the decades of structured data, but also what we can find from our partners and ecosystems and from a variety of sources around the world. Mary Beth mentioned aerial photography and all those things. We're utilizing those capabilities as well, and thinking through every single journey that every customer interacts with us and thinking, how can we improve it? In many cases, again, like USAA, we're focused on touchless and frictionless interactions where the customer can choose to interact with us. In many cases, they think they're interacting with a human being, and we have AI-powered chatbots that are essentially deflecting calls and deflecting interactions and providing a higher customer net promoter score at the end of the day, which we regard as a critical measure of our success in that regard. So I would say that AI and data, every single interaction, digital, not just our direct, but through all of our channels. And finally, we're really focused as well on making sure that all of our employees, our 50,000 employees around the world, can operate in this virtual environment as if they were in the office. You know, like everybody else on the call, I think we mobilized and we're in a work from home mode within 10 days, including all of our call centers. So all of our call center technology agents were working at home as if they were in our call centers, and really didn't miss a beat. So really excited about what it is. It's been acceleration for us, and frankly, doubling down on things. We definitely have seen our customers demand more digitally. Frankly, they don't want to go out of their homes when there are the pandemic challenges all around us, right? So we want to make sure that we can provide the things that make them feel safe, the things that make them feel good about interacting with us. And finally, I'd say that as part of that process, one of the things we have learned is that outside of the technology and the innovation, I think the resiliency of our folks to take care of our customers all around the world has been on display for the last several months, and it's been amazing. Hopefully we all kind of come out of this pretty soon, but we've proven that we can operate globally on a virtual basis so far.
And Todd, what about QBE?
Yeah, thank you, Charles. Good morning, everybody. Well, first of all, let me apologize. My neighbor has decided that right now is the time to mow his yard. So if you happen to hear something in the background, that's not me. It's him mowing his yard. And I wanted to thank Mary Beth. I've been a 40-year customer of USAA, so ever since I could drive, and have been a delighted customer and will continue to be. So I'm thrilled to be able to be on this panel with you as well. So I think a lot of similarities in terms of what you heard, both around kind of technology and how we're thinking about things. I guess I'd share a couple of different perspectives. I think similar to what you heard, a majority of our business comes to us through trading partners, so through brokers, agents, program managers that manage our capital on our behalf. And so I remember early in my career when we talked about being more customer focused, we'd go away and we'd come up with a really interesting customer solution or idea or innovation, but there was only one trick. We actually never spoke to a customer. And so Those usually didn't work. And so over time, we sort of learned if you're going to innovate and really evolve as an organization, you have to spend a lot of time listening to the customers. And for us, this is not about the end user of our product, but as I mentioned earlier, our trading partners and the folks that distribute our products to really understand what clients are experiencing, the stresses they're experiencing, the risks that they have that are currently not being addressed, and how can we organizationally attend to that. And so we talked earlier about some of the technology advancements, whether it be around AI, drone technology, and how we're using that to serve clients better. I would tell you a big focus of ours has been around this concept of how do we operate a business that what we would describe as easier to trade with. And let me maybe explain a little bit about what I mean by that. I don't mean cheap. So that doesn't mean we want to be cheap. But we do want to be of value to both our end users and our trading partners. And a big part of how we think about creating value is in the customer service proposition, but it's also in what I would describe as a greater level of transparency in terms of how we operate, how we make underwriting decisions, sort of risks that fit within the profile of the organization that we feel as though we can be competitive with. And more importantly, what is outside that box? And what we are trying to do is create an environment where we become a relatively boring and predictable insurance company that people can depend on, that there's not a lot of surprise, both in terms of how we think about the risk profile and the type of clients we want to bring into the organization, but our service philosophy, how we go about not only attending to the needs of our distribution partners, but our end users. And there's tons of opportunity, I think, as we'll talk about on this call today, whether it's inefficiency, whether it's new and evolving risks that exist, whether it's embracing some of the competitive forces in the market. I think all of the organizations that are represented here today have an opportunity to improve, and that's exciting. And I think if you embrace that in the right way, we can really build a compelling business in the future.
And Alex, perhaps you'd like to lead off on how this is affecting life companies.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks to Bloomberg and all of my fellow panelists here. Really, a lot of the comments that were made really resonate in the life space as well. This really has been an acceleration in many ways of a focus that we've had for a long time. I mean, as a 175-year-old mutual life insurance company, we've had to innovate over the years to stay relevant. I'd say this period is one of a continued acceleration of that dynamic of change. And our business model is very broad. We cover life, annuities, long-term care, and investments. But the core of our company really is our life insurance offering that's delivered through our affiliated agents. And that is an area that has been under a lot of sort of focus by us. And in contrast to some of the development broadly in the industry, we really have a wholehearted focus on human-centered advice and guidance. And we're really in business to deliver long-term security, peace of mind to our end clients, but we do it through our agents and advisors. And so we've got a lot of focus on how do we do everything we can to enable them to show up and deliver the full suite of our product solutions to our clients with life insurance at the core. And the way we've done that is a lot of investment in the digital domain, customer relationship management systems, a lot of self-service capabilities on our website, the increasing enablement of our service reps to provide service in a more compelling way, and a lot of innovation in the underwriting domain. We're actually one of the first insurers, I think, to really start to invest in the insurtech space and now the life tech space. Our New York Life Ventures unit was started in 2012. We've had over 400 sort of investments, and we've got a lot of focus on not just investing, but identifying companies that can bring new innovation to the company and deploy them in an operational context. So companies like SkyCure or Trifacta. and some of the no-code, low-code companies. So this is an area that we've had a lot of focus on, and the whole fluidless underwriting focus, it's interesting actually, you wouldn't think it, but if you look across the company, including our direct consumer business, as well as our agent sold business and our group businesses, over 80% of our life policies are actually underwritten without fluids. We really advanced that significantly. Due to COVID, we had a lot of things in the works. We were one of the first life insurers to actually enable digital health data to be used in the underwriting process a few years ago. And we continue to move that ball forward. And we've done a lot to further enable use of historical data, like lab data, as opposed to getting the uncomfortable experience for our clients of having to provide blood, especially during a pandemic. Really not the best experience. So we've done a lot to enhance our ability to enable that fluidless underwriting to happen, but still ensure that we're able to do that with good, effective assessment of mortality risk. And a lot of those being done through rules engines and through predictive models that we're leveraging in that experience. So for us, it's been a dimension of how do you ensure that you're doing all the right things for the customer, enabling their interaction, enabling our clients to be much more better served by our agent and advisors, while still holding true to the core of what it is that we do, which is very much human-centric and so family and business-centric. And that's the constant balance, is how do you change while preserving that element of trust and the focus that we have on safeguarding and being a fiduciary for our clients.
And Bill, would that be the same for MetLife or?
Thanks, Charles. Yes, and I will agree with what everybody had to say in terms of the acceleration of digital. It has been immense. And again, from distribution to servicing to our processing. But for us, we've been very focused on having the right balance of what I call high tech, high touch. So we absolutely were very focusing on being able to self-service the transactional piece of that customer interaction. And that transactional piece can be from a distribution down to the servicing process, but to preserve that human connection. And we are there when it matters the most to the customer. So that's the advice piece. And what has been interesting and why this is important for us, especially through the pandemic, a lot of the interactions with the customers and the advice that they needed, most cases was beyond the insurance product. They really wanted our point of view in terms of how do we fit into the financial ecosystem. So a big piece of what we have done in MetLife over the last year, we've been focusing on how do we expand those additional products that we offer, such as financial wellness and customers for life, just to make sure that not only we're able to talk to them about the specific traditional insurance products that we are accountable to be able to provide to them and meet the requirements, but also how does that really fit broadly. So we are balancing the technology with that human touch, and we're getting very specific. Where do we need to use either or? And it's a blend. It's not going to be 100% tech. It's not going to be 100% advice. It needs to be both.
And Karan, for Legal in General, similar trends?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Karan Martin, the Chief Operating Officer for the Legal in General life insurance business. And definitely the trends that my fellow panelists have mentioned this morning all do very much resonate with us at Legal in General. Particularly, I think James used the word acceleration. And just when the pandemic hit, we were already had started our digital application development. And we were in the very early stages of that, and we accelerated that. And we've got about 25% of our business coming through that route now. And I think from a customer perspective, it puts a lot more control in their hands rather than having to sit in an agent's office or speak to us on the phone, because a large part of our business came through us taking applications over the phone, which is quite an elongated process, as you can imagine. You've spoken to a salesperson, and then there's a long phone journey before you even get on to the other aspects of the buying journey. So being able to do that yourself at your convenience at home, I think has put control firmly in the hands of the customers to be able to do it when they want. And I know Alex talked about varying data sets and how we've been able to use those in our business in order to offer instant decisions in some cases and fluidless decisions as well. And that's something we're definitely looking to grow. So it's definitely accelerated our journey, and really all they're seeing now is just the adoption and bringing all of our partners on board. And that's probably the other key thing, is that we've got our end customers that we have to draw all this information from, and we put control in their hands. But for partners, they might feel that that's a slight loss of control because they're used to being very much in charge of that application journey. So we have really worked very closely with them and end customers to get feedback on what we're doing, so that we understand what points of control do they need. So what kind of data flows do they need back to understand where customers are in the journey and what the outcomes are. So we've been juggling that dual B2C and B2B consumer in what we've been doing. So very much resonates with me. And, the whole thing is then a lot faster, which is where we were heading pre-COVID anyway, but to be able to take away the need to go and have an examination and to finish the buying journey, which would be, say, on average around the 35 to 40 day mark, get that sub 20 days is a huge benefit in this climate, particularly since people are still buying life insurance, and in a pandemic, people naturally think a bit more perhaps about their mortality, and you don't want that to drag on, and they think, well, I could have COVID and be gone by the time you get my application through. So we've got to be quicker about what we're doing.
And Jesus, I mean, are customers becoming more demanding? How great is the pressure to meet rising expectations for seamless experience and service?
Yes, exactly. Our customers are clearly becoming more and more demanding. They want faster processes, they want simple products, they want lower prices, they want services around the clock, they want to choose the channel of their preference, and they want the right combination between technology and human touch. And I think that this is one element that we have to make a special emphasis. So the human touch that is provided to facilitate by the technology. How are we facing in Allianz this transformation? Well, naturally, customer centricity is a key cornerstone. We have to place the customer at the center of everything that we do. And to do this, the first thing that we have to do is to listen carefully to what the customer is saying. For this, we have started a global initiative called the Voice of the Customer that is collecting systematically in real time at any touch point of the customer with us, the feedback of the customer. This feedback is integrated with our backend system, and with the help of data analytics, we are able to analyze the root causes of the problems and close the loop, giving feedback to the customer within 24 hours. And what are the customers telling us? I think that this is something that we can share with the rest of the colleagues probably, that is, insurance in general is too complicated. And I would like to illustrate the thing of complication with an example that I like to share with my colleagues here in Allianz. How many P&C products are we able to name by heart as insurance professionals? 20, 30, 50? In Italy, for example, we have 700 retail P&C products, 700. And we have reduced them down to just one. And it's not only a question of the number of products that we have, it's also a question of the complexity, the inherent complexity of our products. The customer must understand our products, because otherwise they can easily find themselves in a position of disadvantage. There's nothing more frustrating as a customer than thinking that something is covered and then discovering that it's not. Eventually, ideally, we are convinced that no claim should be rejected. In the ideal world, our products should be so easy that the customer will know perfectly well when it is covered and it's not covered. When it comes to processes, we also have to use technology to reduce the complexity on the processes, to reduce the pain points, not only focus on efficiency, but also focus on what is complicated for the customer. Let me give you an example. I think that the colleagues has mentioned many of them, the notification of loss, the utilization of artificial intelligence. But for example, what about facilitating the canceling of a policy? This should be also one of the pain points that our customers are suffering today, and we have to also make sure that the customer can easily cancel if they decide so. No? At the same time, the customer is telling us that they don't want just insurance. They want complete end-to-end solutions. And that's why we are also using advanced digital technology to add on top of the traditional insurance products services like, for example, telemedicine or fully integrated repair services. No? In all of this, as I have mentioned, technology obviously plays a super important role, but so does the human touch. That's why the combination of our employees, our agents, and the technology platform is delivering to the customer exactly this experience. And how do we make sure that the customers are receiving and collecting the benefits of this digitalization and this transformation? Obviously, we have to measure, as the colleague said, with the NPS, we are measuring the customer satisfaction, but we are also collecting more detailed KPIs, for example, around what we call a first contact resolution. That is, how frequently are we able to answer at the first contact point the request from the customer, not at the second, not at the third, not at the fourth. No? And that's why we are convinced that with this combination of human touch and technology, we will be able to attract and to better serve our customers.
So Bill, is that also MetLife's experience as well, that customers are getting more demanding?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of similarities to what my friend just talked about it in terms of how do we approach the high-tech, high-touch strategy. But for me, there is no question that the demand is really high. And quite frankly, they're not looking for what I call the best insurance experience. I grew up in banking, and I don't see any difference for my customers today than I saw in the banking almost a year ago. So the way they always articulate that the best experience anywhere is the next experience everywhere. So they are really holding us accountable based on the broader financial services and what they get in there and equal with retail. So for us, again, I'll go back to, we've been very focused on understanding those customer journeys and making sure that we understand how, when, and where they want to be serviced, and where the technology and where the digital infusion will make sense to make those interactions easier for them and the transaction piece. But where do we need to spend more time into that? And so not only they're expecting us to be able to be simpler, faster, easy to do business, but they're coming back and, like I said, they're trying to also understand, and they need advice on how we fit into the whole financial ecosystem. So we're spending a lot of time for us to make sure that we're harmonizing that experience. Even within our digital, we're looking at different channels that we have, either through the call centers, the IVR. We're looking at the way that they're interacting with us through the web. We look at the way we're interacting through the mobile and trying to harmonize those experiences so they don't feel that they're doing business with three different companies just because they chose a very different channel. We are looking at the way that we interact from a human connection perspective and ensure that we have the right standards, the right empathy, but also being able to have enough of the data through AI to understand the holistic view of from our customers, from a MetLife perspective. And we continue to streamline claims, and we still have a lot of paper into that industry. So when you talk about ease of being able to do business and do it faster, simpler, it's important. And the last piece that is coming from the customer, which we didn't talk about it, is their demand to protect their assets. So when we talk about protection of data, and when we talked about protection through either cyber, this is something that they're absolutely demanding for us, not any different than what they have for any other financial institution, any other banking, or anything else.
Okay, so moving the topic on to talk a little bit about how this is actually affecting your own staff. I mean, can you attract and keep the right staff to compete in a digital age? And how are you thinking about business culture, about reskilling employees, about a virtual workforce? Maybe Mary Beth, if you'd like to start us off.
Sure, thanks a lot, Charles. I think a few of you mentioned it. We all pivoted. I mean, USAA was over 30,000 employees pivoting to a work from home very rapidly. We actually set up drive-through hardware pickup locations so that our member service reps could come through with their cars and in a touchless experience, pick up dual monitors, keyboards, VeloCloud devices, everything else, go home, and then have instructions and assistance to get them back on the phones, helping our members that day. Because as we all know, in a financial crisis, when do our members and our customers need us most? It's now. They're calling, they're insecure, everything else. So, once we took care of the health and safety of all of our employees, it was really focused on, now what do we do going forward? And I heard a great statement the other day of it's not going back to work, it's going forward to work, because what used to be there will never be the same again. I don't think any of us would disagree with that. What percentage of our employees will come back to the office? What do we do to sustain in this time frame? How do we make sure as we accelerate digital? We all talked about accelerating digital, and then it's the balance between the human touch and the digital. But what we're all focused on is how do we embed that human touch into the digital as well? So we're all making sure that we're really upskilling our employees from a USAA perspective. That's across our member service reps, that's across our behind the scenes employees, it's also across our technology people, because we were running some pretty tightly coupled systems on mainframes, and it's not the mainframe that's not good, it's the tightly coupled, and we couldn't pivot quickly and everything else. So year to date, I've actually upskilled 900 people in things all the way from cloud development to data engineering to advanced agile and extreme practices and things like that. The business is very focused on, high touch, high complexity claims training, for example. So it's all about making sure we're preparing our employees for tomorrow and how this continues to evolve, because you can't take a look at acceleration of digital, acceleration of technology, acceleration of your processes without preparing your employees for that future. And I think it's just all about making sure that they feel a part of the journey. I think the last point before I pass it on is, I'd love to hear some other thoughts on how you sustain culture during this time, because I've read multiple use cases, business cases, white papers, whatever you want to call them out there. We see the pendulum going back and forth across time. People shift all their employees to work from home. Then a few years later, they bring them back to the office, stating productivity, culture delusion, all those sorts of things. I think culture is very strong right now. People are thankful to have an income and a job that they go into every day. As you said, it's maybe 10 feet to their office, but they're feeling productive every day. But they're also probably sitting next to their child and schooling them throughout the day, or taking care of a parent, or whatever their personal situation may be. And I think it's a question of how do you maintain that culture? I think Zoom has helped an incredible amount, along with other technologies that help us feel not so disconnected. Also, we're really focusing on making sure people take care of themselves first, that you can't work 50 hours in 3 days and expect to remain mentally healthy. But like I said, I'd be curious to see what other people are doing around how do you maintain culture in this disconnected, it's connected, but it's disparate world, right, that we're living in right now.
Mary Beth, maybe I'll just add, Charles, if I could just add maybe to a little bit about the culture aspect as a little bit of a platform for the discussion too here is, you mentioned working forward, going forward to work. That is definitely true. And I discussed a little bit too around the hybrid culture that we're going to have to adapt. Work from home going forward is not work from home as it was, 8 months ago. And so now we have this hybrid culture that people are going to be in the office, they're going to be at home, but we want to maintain the culture of the company and some of the challenges associated with that, and how you see, within your own companies being able to address that and still, drive the productivity you need and the relationships and the trust amongst your own employees.
Bill, I think you wanted to comment.
Yeah, I think the last around culture is very important. There's a couple of things on the culture. Where we're going right now, I still think it's too early to figure out what the solution should be. And part of what I've been very vocal, at least within MetLife, is we still have a lot of learning to do. It's fascinating to me when you talk about productivity versus performance. I think we are absolutely meeting the performance aspect. I'm not sure yet how productive are we, or if we are more productive working from home from where we had been when we had before. The one thing that is certain, and exactly what Mary Beth said, we're not going back to what it used to be. But I also find it fascinating when I read and I see big statements in terms of how do you go from one extreme to another. So more to be done about this. But the mental health aspect, it is absolutely the area that we need to accelerate. We're learning more, and we're really trying to figure out what does it really work, and how does it work in the different regions, the different countries that you do business with. But that culture is huge. And the other piece that came out from the pandemic, there is two other aspects that I think is going to define the way that we're going to be managed going forward. One is the role of DE&I, diversity, equality, and inclusion, and also ESG, the role that our key stakeholders expecting us as an insurance, as a company to play in the marketplace, which is beyond the key stakeholders that we always talked about, which is our customers, which is our associates, and our key stakeholders, which is our shareholders. There is tremendous amount of discussion and pull to make sure that as insurance, we are more than insurance. We are doing good in the communities that we are working. We are doing good in the industry. We're doing good in the environment. And on the D&I has been fascinating because we have shifted to what I call a non-apologetic, more direct dialogue, which I actually think is very refreshing in terms of how do we need to work in the culture that we need to create. Representation matters. A lot of discussions that you cannot be what you don't see. Inclusion matters. People want to come and work for a company. When we talked about how do you train and retain, that values those ideas and the contributions. And quite frankly, equity matters. We keep talking about all of us being a performance-driven company, but that's not the case as soon as you see all the analysis. So the whole concept about ESG, inclusive of DE&I, had really bubbled up as part of the pandemic and had allowed us to have what I believe a more candid discussion. And the last piece, Mary Beth mentioned it, is the training. We are looking at more intensive training experiences throughout the pandemic. We had an opportunity to train people, which we never thought we were going to be able to do. We had an opportunity to really train people on agile, not only the tech folks, but across the company, so they know how they can deliver for the client in a very different way from what they're used to. But also, it's helping us to retain our people. We need to keep our current workforce contemporary with what we're seeing out there. And when you look at how do we recruit, the STEM population is very small. By building, and we're building what I call a MetLife University, by building those skill sets here and the retraining, you're able to hire with a more generic STEM skill sets because, quite frankly, it is not a lot of supply out there for all of us to be able to do what needs to get done.
Todd, I think you wanted to make a comment from QBE.
I did, yeah. Thanks, Charles. And I want to go back to, I guess, the question Mary Beth had with respect to culture. And I don't necessarily have an answer, but I guess just wanted to share a little bit of the journey that we're on. And I think when this whole thing started, everybody on this panel would suggest, first and foremost, the physical and sort of health of our colleagues' population was first and foremost, and making sure that everybody was taken care of and recognizing sort of the stress and the trauma, and then focusing on kind of the business and how do we navigate through. And actually culture, I think certainly for us, was kind of this guiding light on how we were gonna navigate a really uncertain time, and I think has been a big help in that regard. But it was also, we talked about acceleration earlier from a digital perspective. I think it's also necessitated how we can sort of accelerate the really positive dynamics of an organization's culture and give us an opportunity. I know we're spending a lot of time really examining. We felt great about the culture of the organization, prior to this event. It's been tested. And as I said, it felt like it really helped us guide and navigate a way through this. But at the same time, it's kind of an opportunity to think differently about what is the sort of culture that we want to create, in the future. And when we talk about, the future of the organization, we're spending a lot of time, not just our organization, but thinking about what is the future of work? What does the workplace look like? How do we interact with clients? And it's not so much, I think we were very used to training and development and utilizing both in-class or in-person training, online training. And so the technical aspects of what's required in a job, I think we can continue to deliver on that in a different operating environment. But apprenticeship is a very important part of how we build talent and sort of serve clients. And the idea of being around other colleagues and learning from folks that have experiences or just experience, and asking questions and getting an opportunity to work on different things. Relationship building, and relationship building, at least when I grew up in the industry, relationship building was a physical interaction that took place, whether it was over a meal or over a conversation. So how does that really work in a virtual environment going forward? It's more challenging. But it's a really important part about talent and development. And when you operate in a business where relationships are sort of fundamental to business progress and innovation, it's just more difficult to see how those percolate in a kind of environment that we may be migrating into. So as I said, Mary Beth, I don't have an answer to your question on culture and necessarily, how do we take this as an opportunity to sort of leapfrog forward? But I think all of our organizations are not struggling, but view this as sort of as an opportunity, not only for the organization at large, but how do we think about talent development? How do we think about serving clients differently? It's a challenge, but as I said earlier, I think the industry, if we're anything, we're resilient. I would describe us as the most resilient industry because we support making organizations resilient. So I'm confident we'll navigate our way through, but it is certainly a tricky time.
Can we also talk about this subject a little bit in the wider context of how significant are the sort of operational efficiencies that digital technology and the use, for example, of artificial intelligence can bring? Now, are you seeing a measurable return on your investments, as well as the potential impact of all of that on the culture of your employees and your organizations? Karan, I think you wanted to speak.
Karan, I think you're on mute.
Thank you. Yes, I'll comment on the question now about the benefits rather than going back to the last question, which is what I was going to come in on. But we have definitely seen benefits from the kind of benefits that we have been expecting from our digital and automation investments. And being the leader of operations over the years, we've run many initiatives that require a lot of behavioural or process change. And I'd say there's a lot less certainty about getting those benefits because people have to do something different than they did yesterday and do it in a very consistent way to actually yield the benefits. Whereas when we've implemented things like robotics automation, that has given, if we automated a process like, say, taking beneficiary details from web forms that customers submit and automatically loading them onto our systems, then overnight that work literally has disappeared. And for us, the journey has been about cost saving, but also making room for growth. So not growing our people headcount in line with our business growth. So in that sense, it's been non-threatening because it is about making headroom, and people can see that when we do those things, it's eased pressure in terms of the amount of work that's got to be done. And we named our bots, for example, like the one that does the benefits, we call it Benny Bot. So we try to kind of humanize a bit of that process too. And then on the digital journey, it's harder to get to in terms of automating your underwriting rules. That's harder than automating a process using robotics. But those benefits are there too. So as soon as you start to get instant decision, fewer exams, then you are removing workload. And again, creating some headroom for growth, but also we need to create headroom because then we're left dealing with the more complex things. So I know we talked earlier in the last question about upskilling your workforce in this environment, and is always an ongoing challenge, but that's something that we've been working hard at as well. And we have rolled out our new system virtually. All of our training has been done virtually, and we've brought that on, to a large part of our workforce now in a virtual environment. And then on the underwriting side, when we're left with more tricky work, we've just got to upskill more people. So we have managed to do that and been very intentional about what we've been doing and thoughtful, which I think you can get into a kind of business as usual. This is how we do things, but we've had to have a rethink. And I think that is refreshing and something that we can build on going forward.
And Jesus, the experience at Allianz.
Well, I have to say that productivity and efficiency is deeply rooted in our group strategy, Simplicity Wins, in which we like to describe it as a part of a whole. So we have productivity, we have customer satisfaction, we have employee engagement and growth, and we believe that all these pieces are deeply interconnected. No? Interconnected in what we call a virtuous cycle. No? So a happy customer served by an engaged employee is going to lead to a higher business volume. Then the application of technology, the application of simplification, automation is going to generate productivity gains that we can reinvest again into increased customer satisfaction, for example, increasing the rate of first contact resolution, as I explained before, and the engagement of our employees with investment in better equipment, investment in making their life easier in home office, or investment in reducing non-value-added activities that is going to allow them to focus in what really matters. No? And yes, technology, I insist, plays a super important role. Like, for example, the application of artificial intelligence accelerating the evaluation of a claim, or the application of artificial intelligence to detect potential fraud. But apart from the productivity efficiency that all of these things are generating, there's the other side of the coin that is improving dramatically the experience of the customer, because we are faster, or because we are saving the money of legitimate customers, like in the case of avoiding fraud.
And Alex, I don't know, would you like to comment a little from the point of view of New York Life?
Yeah, sure. We certainly are driving a lot of the same dynamics as you heard from Jesus and Karan, and I'm sure the other panelists. There's a huge number of different investments that we've made in new technologies and capabilities, data science, robotic process automation, those things being applied to aid the sales process, aid underwriting, aid customer service, are all yielding some good benefit. But I think the key point, which was also touched on, is how do you do that in a way that enables all the employees as well as our stakeholders to really advance in a material way, not just from an operational efficiency perspective. How do you actually do a better job at determining mortality risk, as an example? How do you ensure that you've got the right pathways for employees to upskill? We've had a data science academy in place for many years with hundreds of employees going through that on both the business track and a technical track. We've got a lot of online engagement. And I think on the important culture point that was raised in the previous question as well, really huge leveraging of online interaction, which was a very good place for employees to go even pre-pandemic, but now it's really a core of what we do to enable learning pathways, sharing of information. We're doing our hackathon fully online this year, and we've got innovation services that really support other parts of the company in really upskilling and thinking about how we approach things in a different way. So I think it's a combination of ensuring that you're investing in those capabilities that really will drive operating efficiency and better outcomes and better capabilities, and doing that at the same time as you are enabling your employee base and your agents to really upskill. And it's that combination that's going to be critical. And as we go forward, I think increasingly critical as the world keeps changing.
Maybe just before we bring the discussion to a close, perhaps if each of you would like to sort of wrap up on what you see are the really key dynamics, and particularly also thinking about technology, what is the thing that most excites you about the way in which you see your business is changing? Karan, maybe you would like to start us off.
I think it's really exciting to offer a much better experience for our customers. I'm sure when people think about buying life insurance, they're kind of conditioned that is not going to be an easy journey for them. I think that's often the starting point. So there is a real opportunity to do things better and delight them. I think it also has created a lot of interesting roles within our business and a new way of thinking about things. And I think that's tremendously exciting for our people as well.
James?
Yeah, I entirely agree. I think putting the customer at the center is critical. I think that the other area that I'm pretty excited about, Bill mentioned it a little bit earlier, is the evolution of our culture and the focus on diversity and inclusion. That's going to be key to attracting and retaining the talent that we need. And there was a lot of talk about how we need to reskill our folks. There's a huge shortage of technology talent, so it's not going to be solved by continuing to look to bring people into the organization. We need to find ways to reskill and upskill our folks. So I'm pretty excited about that. I think that we definitely have seen some productivity improvements so far. I guess the question is, how sustainable is it as we look down the barrel of another 6, 9, whatever number of months for this? But we're excited about it. We think our customers are already resonating with the changes that we've made, and we're excited to do more in that regard as well.
And Todd, for QBE?
Yeah, Charles, two things for me. I just, we will continue to be guided by the voice of the customer and continuing to listen to sort of their desires and needs. And again, hopefully innovate. And we still think there's a world of risk that isn't currently being addressed that creates a lot of opportunity for us. And I think the second thing is we've got 3 kids that are sort of just entering the workforce right now. And, they don't think insurance is cool. They want to do something else with their lives, which is fine. But I think this business is really cool. And I think if you think about the technologies that we've talked about today, think about the opportunities that we all have in front of us, it's a great story to tell. And I think we should be encouraged and energized by being able to tell that story and create the opportunities for all the problems we need to solve, going forward, many of which we talked about today.
Mary Beth?
Agree with everything, but where I'd add on, I guess, is I'm really excited about how we're leaning into the future. And, my role as a CIO is to really be in both worlds, the business and the technology world, understanding what the business is striving for and hoping to achieve, and then going back on a technology front and enabling that through that technology. And I think the opportunity is just boundless right now. And that's what really excites me, how we're looking at data out in the cloud, really being able to process that into our digital experiences, our touchless experience, just putting the customer first, upskilling our employees. I mean, it just is the thread that runs through everything we've talked about today. So that's kind of what I would add.
And Alex?
Yeah, I think definitely concur with Todd's point about having the industry be seen as cool and innovative, because I think we actually are. coupled with we provide a real social good. There aren't a lot of industries that can definitively say that, and I think we do. And I think that message sometimes doesn't come across. So I think we've got a real opportunity to change how the industry is perceived. And this whole event has given us, I think, a good platform to make sure that we're driving towards that faster.
And Jesus, finally.
Well, I cannot agree more on the fact that our industry is innovative. Actually, I like to say that we are digital by nature. So we don't have physical goods. We don't have bricks and mortars. We just manage bits and bytes of pieces of information. So we are condemned to be digital. Therefore, we are condemned to be innovative. No, it's a joke, sorry. I would like to add, on top of what we have said, the topic on simplicity. So I am fascinated, and we are obsessed making the life simpler of our customers. In our industry, yes, it's innovative, but still is too complex, it's too complicated. And we have to reduce to the minimum this complexity and use the technology to do exactly this. And use the technology also to increase the human touch and to recover a little bit the social role of our industry, no? Role that maybe when it was born almost 300 years ago, we had, and I have the impression that we have lost a little bit, at least this social point that Todd mentioned at the beginning. And then I am personally fascinated also with the ability to provide to the customer with a fair answer, making our decisions more complete, not just based on judgment, on expert judgment, based on data and based on innovation as well. So yes, I like to think that we are a very innovative industry.
With that, I think we need to draw the discussion to a close. These are clearly exciting and challenging times for the industry. I'd just like to thank you all very much for participating in today's event. We will send you the key takeaways article once it's complete. And a special thanks also to our sponsor of the event, IBM. Thank you, B.